Orangutans are incredible animals and one of the most intelligent species on Earth. Despite this, due to habitat loss, poaching, and other threats, these creatures are now considered critically endangered, and without our help, they may soon disappear entirely from the wild. Our game, Rainforest Rivals, is a two-player board game where one player plays as a civilization of humans, while the other player plays as a migratory herd of orangutans on the island of Borneo, Indonesia. The game is about survival and expansion as both players compete for the same finite resources located across the island. As the human player, your objective is to obtain 6 victory points by meeting specific objectives listed on the game board, which represent the success of your nation. Each turn, you'll be given the opportunity to construct new settlements, gain resources, and expand your growing territory. Sharing the jungle with you is a migratory herd of orangutans, who are also competing for the same resources. Your colony is built on the border of a lush forest, and you start the game with a city, which is your capital. You also have 5 wood, 5 stone, and 5 food to begin with, but be careful. You share the forest with the orangutans, who are also seeking food and shelter. The orangutan player's goal is to survive by moving across the map, finding food for their herd to eat, and new mates to reproduce with. Turns alternate between players, with the orangutans going first. You can choose to build different types of settlements, such as farms, which provide food for your nation, or nature reserves, which build the scientific knowledge of your nation, while also aiding the opposing orangutans grow their population. The resources you gather are essential to your survival. You must balance your need for resources with the need to protect the forest and its wildlife. The game includes various objectives that the human player must meet to gain victory points. The objectives range from scientific breakthroughs to ecological preservation to building your nation's wealth. As the orangutan player, your goal is to move across the map, find food for your herd to eat, and new mates to reproduce with, all while avoiding the opposing, rapidly expanding human civilization. Your objective is to reach 15 herd members to win the game. During each round as the orangutan player, you need to carefully manage your food resources as you move across the board. You can only move a limited distance based on your dice roll and must manage moving between your potential mates and gathering food by the river. Throughout the course of the game, the orangutan player will be given the opportunity to draw active nature cards, which present them with hard choices which they must make, with dramatic consequences. For instance, they may choose to force the human player to build a nature reserve, which benefits the orangutans by granting them an increased population. This comes at the downside of also providing the human player with greatly increased progress in their scientific research. As the game progresses, the board state changes, with deforested areas becoming plains and new settlements appearing across the map due to influence of the human player. You must adapt your strategy to the changing landscape and your opponent's moves. Because the progress of both players are so closely entwined, with both sides relying on the same resources and often even relying on each other to progress, it shows the interconnectedness of our civilization with nature. We present players with opportunities to either remain divided or learn to work together. According to a report by the World Wildlife Fund, deforestation is the second largest driver of climate change after the burning of fossil fuels. This practice is notably present in Southeast Asia, home to many of the world's orangutans. This, alongside poaching, has put orangutans at severe risk. While conservation-themed games exist, our game reframes the subject matter by giving players the opportunity to empathize with the two very contrasting sides of the conflict. We created an asymmetrical gameplay system that embodies the two opposing roles and effectively emulates the struggles that either side may endure. Each choice that one player makes impacts the other side, sometimes not in immediately apparent ways. For instance, humans deforesting the surrounding area makes traveling across the map far more dangerous for orangutans, and orangutans choosing to save resources by cutting through human territory can lead to a loss for both sides as the orangutans are put at risk of poaching. The goal of our user experience for Rainforest Rivals is to create an engaging experience, and we expect to create a sense of connection and social interaction between players, with their given roles as well as their opposing player. Players are able to create a sense of empowerment, personal growth, and social impact during the game, allowing them to feel that they can have a positive impact on the world through their actions in the game. It also allows players to understand the importance of wildlife conservation and encourages cooperation between human and orangutan players. In order to achieve this, we made the experience as simplified and understandable as possible. Traditionally, strategy games are quite complex, but we managed to strip the systems down to their most crucial and basic mechanics, creating a rule set that is able to be understood quickly, but still effective in communicating our core ideas. Additionally, visuals are used throughout the game in order to give the player a sense of connection with nature, as well as provide contextual clues such as when building various settlements or gathering resources. During playtesting, we found that ultimately players found our game to be transformative, as they learned to empathize with both sides of the game. This was not done easily, though. It took us many iterations to reach a point where the game was fun, fair, and transformative. It was a challenge to make a game that sensitively handled such an important issue while still having the content be fun and engaging. As such, we had to remove elements that encouraged conflict only for the sake of conflict. For instance, we decided not to reward the human player for poaching the orangutans, despite this mechanic being an exciting and fun way to make progress for the humans. While poaching is commonly done in real life, and often quite profitable for the poachers involved, it was antithetical to our message we were trying to convey. We also implemented ways to educate the player by using small narrative elements and prompts in subtle ways, such as describing the context of the game and the rules, and using real-world scenarios to describe the player's actions. We proved our strategy to be effective through the use of extensive playtesting, using tools such as questionnaires, surveys, and heavily reviewed gameplay. Ultimately, we found that by combining educational content about protecting orangutans with strategic gameplay elements, Rainforest Rivals has proved to provide an enjoyable gaming experience that also raises awareness for how important ecological conservation is.